Happy Saturday, everyone. So today I'm going live. Last week we talked about the feel-good chemicals in our brain, which were oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine. And so today we're going to be talking about the not so feel good hormone. It's also known as our stress hormone, and that is cortisol. I will also get a teeny bit into adrenaline and norepinephrine. That's a difficult word. So I just want to start by talking about something that happened to me this week that really kind of blew my mind. We were doing a in-service, so like a learning opportunity. Hey, good day, Christy. Oh, I miss good day. I miss the valley. The other day I was in an in-service learning opportunity talking about children with depression. And one thing that was discussed was self-care and the purpose of self-care, ways we can, participate in self-care. And all the answers came up, absolutely blew my mind. So one lady talked about eating chocolate cake as self-care. Another lady talked about cracking a bottle of wine and drinking as self-care. The whole concept of self-care, I really think that we need to reframe that. So today I'm going to touch on the difference between pleasure and gratification as well. So to start off, this is going to kind of lead into everything. So pleasure, it's immediate, it's short-lived, it gives you a sense of happiness, but once that feeling is fulfilled, it quickly goes away. A prime example of this is eating a slice of chocolate cake. Yes, it tastes delicious. Yes, it's going to make us happy. It's going to be pleasurable. But the issue is it's not gratifying. It's not going to last. So the difference between pleasure and gratification gives you a sense of pride. Pride of your accomplishments. It also gives you intellectual stimulation, and it becomes a part of who we are. So an example of this would be going to the gym. If you're going to the gym regularly, of course, you're going to get the immediate pleasure and that it's going to release those feel-good hormones. However, it's also going to give you gratification. So the difference between pleasure and gratification is that pleasure is very short-lived, whereas gratification stretches over a period of time. So we are going to come back to this near the end when we do start talking about self-care and how to lower our cortisol levels. So what is cortisol? Cortisol is a hormone that is released by the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are located right above the kidneys, and they're just small almond-sized glands. What these do is they're extremely sensitive to stress. So whether it's a physical stressor, like pain, or physical, as in we just ate an entire chocolate cake, and now our body is undergoing a lot of stress trying to process that sugar. It could also be environmental, so being stuck in a traffic jam. That is stressful. That can raise your cortisol levels. And it could also be emotional or mental. A really great example of this is grief. Grief is a very, very difficult emotion, and it can be very hard to handle. So whenever we experience grief, or something even as simple as our kids aren't listening, that can release cortisol as well. So cortisol, norepinephrine, and adrenaline are all interlinked. These are the hormones that typically increase stress responses. So these were all absolutely wonderful whenever we were in our hunting and gathering stages. It allowed us to have a quick release of energy. It maintained our fluid balance and our blood pressure, and it could be life-saving. it allowed us to recognize that, oh no, that's a giant woolly mammoth and I need to get out of here. It allows that quick release of energy and we can boot it. But in our current day and age, this isn't necessarily helpful all the time. So when we experience chronic stress, our body continuously releases cortisol. What happens is our fight or flight is triggered all the time. And then what happens is we end up with adrenal fatigue. So, I do want to talk a little bit about the negative aspects of cortisol. So, high cortisol levels are linked to a suppressed immune system. So, you're going to get colds, you're going to get flus, just any kind of bug that's going around. It does have the ability to attack a little more fervently than if your cortisol wasn't as high. It also increases blood sugar, blood pressure, decreases libido, increases acne, contributes to obesity, heart disease, stroke, autoimmune diseases. It shrinks brain cells. It can create memory loss. It increases inflammation. None of these are going to be good for our body, obviously. So having that chronic stress all the time and not giving your body a chance to calm itself, obviously creates a lot of major health issues in the long run. Like even just heart disease, the number of heart attacks that are linked to chronic stress are extremely high. That's why one of the first things the doctors ask about is your diet, your exercise, and your stress levels. So just to briefly talk about different ways we can lower our cortisol. Sorry about that. So there are some ways. The main one's diet. Honestly, the main one is definitely diet. So we want to limit high carbohydrate meals, especially like the white bread, white rice, anything with any kind of carbohydrates that don't include fiber is going to increase your sugar levels. And then in turn, because you have high sugar, you're going to have high cortisol and vice versa. And then, of course, limiting your sugar content as well. The other thing is alcohol and caffeine. So alcohol and caffeine are both known to increase cortisol levels. Coffee itself can actually increase your cortisol level by 30% in under an hour. I know for me personally, whenever I drink coffee, I'm okay. If I have so much as one sip of a second coffee, my anxiety absolutely skyrockets and I spend the rest of my day trying to get my thoughts back in check and trying to reduce my anxiety. So again, the caffeine, that's going to trip your fight or flight response and you're probably going to struggle. That's why a lot of people get the jitters, they get kind of antsy. So yeah, reducing that caffeine intake and reducing your alcohol intake. Alternatively, because caffeine does have a lot of great properties that your brain utilizes, one thing that we can do is eat whole coffee fruit rather than drinking the coffee. So whenever we eat the whole coffee fruit, it doesn't have the caffeine content that regular coffee does, so it's not going to raise that cortisol level. Another thing that we can do, and this is one of my favorites, creativity and music and dancing. So just like we saw on Grey's Anatomy, I know I'm a huge watcher of Grey's Anatomy, whenever they have their dance parties after a stressful situation, what this does is within 45 minutes of partaking in creativity or music and dance, it actually reduced cortisol levels in about 75% of participants within the study. So we can then use this within our own life by adding in those creativity or music and dance breaks. I know one time I was having just a terrible morning. I pulled my car over on the highway. I got out on a side road. I cranked my music and I honestly got out and just started dancing in the road. It totally changed my day. It reset my brain. It reduced my stress. And honestly, it just saved everything. So having that creativity and the music and dance, and creativity can be anything too. We're talking art, it could be journaling, it could be writing poetry, it could be making murals, it could be painting your walls, and who knows. But adding in those creativity breaks allows us the chance for our cortisol to reduce without us being necessarily cognizant of it. Another thing that really reduces cortisol levels is spirituality and prayer. So I know religion's a tough one for a lot of people. However, the studies are showing that there is definitely reduced stress in difficult life events if one partakes in some form of spirituality and prayer. And that can be anything that you believe, but just by giving our difficult issues over to a higher power, that then takes the pressure off of us. So I know me personally, I'm sure I've talked about it before. I believe in God. I have a God box. So what I do is I write it out. There's my creative writing. And then I give it over to God. I put it in my mailbox and then it becomes his problem and I'm able to accept and move on. And then finally, this one's a little more tangible. So omega-3 fatty acids. This prevents your adrenal this prevents adrenal activation elicited by mental stress. So adding in those omega-3 fatty acids, you can either supplement or you can do this naturally. That's going to help prevent our adrenal glands from kicking in every time we experience a small distress. So yeah, that's about it today. I hope you guys got some great information about cortisol, ways we can reduce our cortisol levels. And I just want to leave you with this. So before I was talking about pleasure versus gratification. So self-care, everything that I listed, those can all be considered self-care. So nutrition, limiting alcohol and caffeine, partaking in creativity, music, dance, spirituality and prayer, and adding in supplements. Those are all considered self-care. So do you think that these are pleasurable activities or activities that are going to give you gratification in the long run? And knowing this now, how would you define your self-care and in what ways do you practice self-care? I'd love to hear your comments. You can pop them in the box below. And just a side note, I am working on course content. I'm very, very excited. The Blow Your Mindset online course is kicking off in a couple of weeks. I already have a couple of people registered, so I'm really excited about this. And if you check out my wall right now, I do have a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away one free ticket. If you have already purchased a ticket, you will have the opportunity to either get an extra ticket for somebody close to you, or you can get your money back, your money refunded. So whichever you prefer. And for those that haven't gotten their ticket yet, definitely go check out the post. And I wish everybody best of luck. And I will see you next Saturday for our next video. Have a great weekend, everyone.